model, we are going to look at strategic options and choice. And strategic options and choice is just looking at where we want to go. Okay, so remember that when you look at strategy or strategic management, it is about three things, not so. So strategic management is about three things. First of all, knowing your position, right? Which we call strategic position. So strategic position is where you are, where we are, okay, where we are. And this is determined by what? Matching your external opportunities and threats against your internal resources and capabilities, which we call what? SWOT, not so. So after you know where you are standing, you must decide on where you want to go, which is your strategic what? Choice, or I prefer strategic options. There may be some options available to you, and then some choices that you make from those options available to you, right? So what are the options? So now you say where you are Tema, not so, which is your strategic position now, not so, which is your strategic position. Now, you want to go to Accra, you want to go to what? Kumasi, you want to go to Takrade, not so. Now, what happens is that these are all options available to you. That is it. Options that are available to you. But the thing is, how can you pursue those options? That is the choice. Which one would you choose? So let's say that it will cost me 50 cedis to go to Accra, will cost me 65 cedis to go to Kumasi, and will cost me 100 cedis to go to what? Takrade. And I only have, let's say, 55 cedis. Not so. So the thing is, which is more closer to me? It is Accra. So I can pursue the strategy. And making choice involves a bit of evaluation, right? And this is what we do. We mostly use the SFA approach. However, there are other models, but mostly ICA prefers the SFA approach. So you look at your suitability. Does it link to my overall objectives that I want to, what I'm going to do at Accra? Is it in line with my mission? Is it something I can do? Not so. Does it go with my strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats? The same way you are looking at what? Acceptabilities. Me going to Accra or going to what? Kumasi and Takrade, which one will my stakeholders accept? Okay, my stakeholders may be risk averse, or my shareholders, for instance, may be risk averse. They do not want me to go far. They may want me to go to Accra. So Accra, they would accept. Then feasibility. Which one do I have enough resources to carry out? And when you look at it, it is Accra. So that means I can select Accra, right? And how do I want to go to Accra? Do I want to go alone, or I want to what? Go with other people? So that is what we call strategic what? Development, right? So with strategic development, it could be that I want to go alone. If I want to go on my own with my own resources and people, that is what we call what? Internal development, okay? Internal development. And when I want to go with other people, that is what we call external what? Development. So I may collaborate with other people or join hands with other people. Okay, so this is basically what strategic choice is about, making strategies and what? Choosing from them. And the next part of strategy is what? After you've been able to do all this, you need to put people to work. That's what we call strategic implementation. So implementing strategy, right? And it also involves evaluation, the SFA test. Okay, so always remember this. Now, what I want to do is talk about the general strategic options and choice approach, right? So it starts with your direction, where you want to go, right? And strategic direction is more of corporate strategies, right? So strategic direction is more of a what? A corporate done at the board level. Okay, so the board decides what markets and products to go into. So they decide with particular markets or products to go into, right? What products and markets do we go into to succeed? Okay, and this involves some particular things. First of all, this is the direction, right? And this would involve, right? You know product and markets, right? Which means that you must know portfolio what? Management. I get it. The board considers particular portfolio, particular mix of products and markets that they should go into, or particular businesses that they should go into, right? And as part of portfolio management, as a student, you need to, one, know corporate parent, because if you are going to manage businesses, then you are acting as a parent, okay? So that's why I said portfolio management. So you must be a good parent. You must be able to add or destroy value, okay, in businesses that are doing well or not doing well. The same way, we must know various portfolio models, right? So there are portfolio models that, because you say you are going to do portfolio management, then you must know various models that can be used to analyze your product and market. So one, we have the product life cycle, which is, I think, the most important model. Okay, so the product life cycle model. Then two, you look at other portfolio models like the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, BCG Matrix, which is done straight from ICA level 1. So I could say this one is key. It's mostly constant there that you master this matrix, because all other matrices are variations, or they are clone models of the BCG. BCG is like the key model developed by the Boston Consulting Group. Then we have the GE business screen, or the GE planning grid, which is a variation of the BCG. Then you must also know the directional policy matrix by Shell Corporation. Directional policy matrix. The directional policy matrix is also a clone model or a variation of BCG. Then we have the public service matrix by Montanari and Braca. Public service matrix, which is also called the public sector matrix for public sector organizations, right? Then we have the ASHRAE portfolio display, okay, which also is called the corporate parent matrix, or the parenting matrix, right? Which tells how the corporate parent can add or destroy value based on businesses that they can support, and those who rhyme, or those who fit with their current CSFs. Okay, that is what we call the portfolio models that you have to know. Okay, as part of these models, there will be some particular strategies that we must adopt. Now, remember that we know what some markets we can go into and some products we can go into, and how to manage them as a parent. The same way, when we take this product and market, how do we perform with them? Right? That is where we try to expand that market. So the next thing to consider are still your corporate strategies, right? Which is expansion. As part of it, the next thing you need to consider is expansion. And as a student, I tell students, you know something? When it comes to expansion, you are looking at two things. Either you are going overseas, okay? So here you consider overseas what? Expansion. So when you are going overseas, we consider what? Overseas expansion, or our domestic market, right? Where we try to expand domestically. So we consider what? Domestic what? Expansion. Now, anytime you want to expand, there are two ways we consider expansion, right? So either you want to expand in your own market or expand in different markets, right? Remember, so expanding in your own market, we either intensify. So we intensify our strategies, or we intensify what we already do. So we call them intensification strategies, right? Or we differentiate. So anytime you want to grow, I get in it, or we diversify, sorry. So anytime you want to grow, you do two things. You either intensify your operation or you diversify, right? So intensification strategies are three. So either we are doing market penetration, or two, we are doing market development. That is where we are trying to build a new market in our existing environment, or we are trying to what? Build a new product development. Okay, so these are all intensive or intensification strategy. Other names we know them for are concentration strategies. Okay, so they are also called concentration strategies. That's another name for these ones. So sometimes they are called grand strategies. So it depends on the book you are using. But according to ICA, these are the ones that you may have. But mostly we have another model that brings all these together, right? So with diversification strategies, it is either you are in your same industry, you are going to a similar product or service that is connected with what you're already doing. We call that concentric or related diversification, right? Then you may also go into an unrelated market, okay, which we call what? conglomerate, or unrelated diversification, right? So there are a lot of them that you need to know. So when you're expanding, these are the things you consider. Now, these two models or these two growth strategies are consolidated under what we call the Ansough's matrix, right? And this Ansough's matrix was put together by Igor Ansoff, right? So sometimes Igor Ansoff is who puts it together, or the main pioneer. Now, this Ansough's matrix, you can go to the exam and they ask you that what? Using the growth vector matrix. So ICA calls this what? Growth vector. So when you see growth vector, using growth vector, I get in it, or market development strategies, then you are talking about Ansough's matrix. We'll come and look at it. Then after you have been able to know how to grow, that is when you are in the growth stage. Sometimes you may be mature. So companies in the maturity, or they are in the maturity stage, are you getting it? They go with stability strategies, right? They go with stability strategy because they are mature. They've already made their strategy. So they go with stable growth, or what? Stability strategies, right? So that is it. Then for companies in the decline stage of their life cycle, they'll mostly be going with defensive or harvesting strategies, or sometimes we use the word what? Retrenchment strategies, right? These companies have to, gather themselves and leave the market. So there are a lot of them, like bankruptcy, liquidation, turnaround strategy, captivative pricing strategy, withdrawal strategy. There are a lot, pruning. Okay, there are a lot of them. Now, these are all corporate what? Strategies. Now, from there, if you say, okay, now I have been able to look at markets and what? Businesses I should go in. Then the next question, which is very important, is that, okay, now you have done what? Your strategic direction. Now you know which direction to go. Now, when you get there, those markets and the products that you've selected, when you get there, by all means, you are going to compete. So the next question is, how do we compete? And how do we compete is what we call what? Competitive advantage. How do we succeed over our existing competitors? So that is what we call competitive what? Advantage. Okay, that's what we call competitive advantage. Now, for competitive advantage or competitive strategies, there are some things you need to consider first. First, if you want to compete, you must first look at your environment, right? So first, looking at your environment, it depends on two things. Your environment, which is first looking at your competitive forces, your 5 forces, and how strong they are. That will tell you how profitable or how non-profitable that industry is. Then two, you look at your what? Your internal capabilities. So if you have capabilities which are valuable, which cannot easily be copied, also which are rare and inimitable and well organized, people cannot copy. When you are able to match these two things, then I think you should have strong competitive advantage, right? But apart from that, there are some models that students must understand here. Okay, and these models include one, the Bowman strategy clock, which is very important. If you are sitting ICA without this model, you cannot succeed. Two, the generic strategies, right? And these generic strategies are developed by Michael Porter. It is the generic strategies that were used to develop the strategy clock. However, the strategy clock focuses on something which makes it very unique. It talks about the perceived value that, or the perceived benefit that the customer is going to get from you, as well as the price. So how does price or cost mix with the benefit that the customer is getting? So if I have a product which has what? A high benefit and giving a low price, a customer would want that. And I may have a product which has high value and also is charged high. No customer wants to pay high price, but sometimes it is worth it. That means the person is more of a differentiator and the price may be worth it, right? That is why people who buy these luxurious watches and luxurious clothes, they are valued, right? Because of the perceived value or perceived benefits that they get. Now, when it comes to generic strategies, they are from three perspectives, right? Either you want to go low cost, okay, that's how you participate in the market. So every company will either go low cost or will come with a different product, which we call differentiation, or the person would just focus on a particular segment on the market. So these are the three main, and there could be a mixture of either of them, right? Which are hybrids, or we could have a company that's bits and pieces, or a company that is stuck in between either of them. Okay, so you have to know them. After you have been able to know these models to gain competitive advantage, still under competitive advantage, you must learn how to what? Sustain the competitive advantage, you know, so because I don't think you want it to be one off. If you just got the market the first time, you just stay like that. No, you have to keep what? Fighting. You have to sustain what you have, right? You get the money, you sustain it. You sustain your customers, you sustain in the environment, you sustain your market share. So here, you have to know how to sustain competitive advantage. And that would mean you should know some internal models that will help you, right? So internal models that I consider here may include one, the value chain, knowing some activities that you have to cut off and those you have to maintain to actually what? Add value to your business. And that will determine how successful you will be in the market. Or you look at your VRIO or RO framework, anyhow you arrange it, OVRO, it doesn't matter. This one tells you how your resources can be distinguished from your competitors' own, right? It tells you how you can have strong competitive advantage, or you can have a strategic capability. You know, so people cannot easily copy you, cannot easily take what you have, right? You can also use your 9M resource model, right? So look at how strong your resources are. I get it. You can conduct all these methods are actually helping you to conduct a resource audit to look at your resources that your competitors cannot easily copy or easily imitate, right? So apart from that, there are also other things you must consider, like how do you position yourself, right? How do you position your products to gain competitive advantage, or sustain your competitive advantage? Then also using the marketing mix. Okay, so we can also use the marketing mix and service models to, you know, sustain competitive advantage. So it's the 4 P's against the 7 P's. For when you see services, it becomes 7 P's because you have people, processes, and evidence, right? Physical evidence to actually tell us how we are succeeding in the market. Apart from that, you look at an environment where there's hyper competition, and you must know some strategies to deal with these ones. So these are all areas that ICA actually wants students to know when it comes to competitive advantage. Now, if you have seen how to compete, okay, now you decided you grow this way, you expand, you go into this market and that market. Where is the money to carry it out? Or how do you want to carry it out? Are you getting it? Or the next thing is to consider how to achieve the chosen direction, right? How to achieve the chosen direction. So that's the next thing to consider. How to achieve the chosen what direction? That's the next thing we always have to consider. How to achieve that chosen direction. Okay. So this is actually considering how you intend to what? To achieve all this marketing and competitive advantage stuff, and that will require resources, right? So we are saying that, okay, first of all, do you intend doing it with your own resources, team, staff, and everything you have? That one is actually internal development, right? Internal development. And internal development is what we know as organic growth. Okay, so you are growing with your own what? Staff, your own resources, right? As part of organic growth or internal development, there are so many things you have to consider, right? So that it can be successful. But apart from that, there are models like what? Greener's growth model, which you have to know, which tells us how the various stages an organization goes through and the crisis it faces when it is trying to grow organically. Okay, so if it is not internal development, then the next thing you have to consider is external development. And when you are growing externally, it means that you are not growing alone, you are growing together with somebody. So first, we tend to look at what? A mergers and acquisition strategy, right? And we all know that, yes, mergers and acquisitions may be good. It may be a shortcut because you don't have to spend so much time. You can merge with somebody who has already grown. And this one has a disadvantage. It could be quite expensive, but sometimes we can do share exchange, right? We can exchange shares with the other person. So it reduces that part. But however, there may be culture clashes, the people may not agree with you, the managers may demand high money if you're acquiring them and all that, right? And sometimes somebody may want to acquire you. So there must be some defenses. Some people may defend against they being acquired. Apart from mergers and acquisition, you can go with joint development strategies, right? Or collaboration. That is where you collaborate with people like partnerships, joint ventures, franchises, and so on and so forth. You can form an alliance. You can create a cartel. You can create a pool budget. Okay, these are all joint development methods, right? These are various ways that a business can choose to develop or carry out its particular strategies it has decided to pursue. Okay, so these are the things you consider. Now, as part of it, the next thing I consider is the financing option, because how to carry out a particular strategy involves money, though this is more of what strategic implementation, putting people to work or implementing a strategy. I still consider the financial options available to you and how you are going to pursue them, right? So I will decide whether you are going with long-term finance, not so long-term finance. Are you going with debt or equity, okay, to finance that investment, or are you going with lease or buy, right? So are you going to buy assets or you are going to lease them? So mostly we say borrow to buy, not so. So you borrow from the bank to buy that asset, which is still a financing decision, or you lease the asset. This one is more of calculations and assessing. So here, sometimes I may even consider some ratios to look at the position of the organization. But when it comes to organic growth, you must really look at your ratios. For instance, the cash position or the resources the company has, right? By calculating some particular ratios to help you to decide whether an organic strategy is better for the company. Because why would you have a company that has so much resources that can carry out a particular investment, not so, and you decide to go with mergers and acquisition? It does not make sense, right? If the company has the capability and the strength to grow on its own, let it grow, because there's also a risk when you try to do it with other people, right? The culture clashes, people may not agree, trying to force the change may be difficult because people do not like change. Okay, so also we may consider what short-term financing as well, right? So short-term financing, factoring, trade credit, all those, using the money market and all that. So this is basically when we talk about strategic choice, these are the issues around them. And once you're a student and you know these issues, I don't think you should have a problem, right? Because everything that you do, you must evaluate, remember. So the strategy that, remember, all the things we saw there were options. Then when it comes to the choice, strategic choice, you are choosing from your strategies. And there are some models. The first model here is the SFA, which ICA is focused on this. Almost every exam, ICA focuses on what? The SFA. So SFA, suitability. Is it suitable? Is the strategy chosen suitable? Does it link with your mission? Okay. So you see a company in a fast-paced environment, then you are pursuing stable growth. It doesn't work, right? So it depends. It should link with your mission. It should link with your environment. It should link with your internal capabilities. Also, then we say it is suitable to you. It matches, right? It matches with your business model. Then when we talk about feasibility, mostly here has to do with what? Resources. Do you have resources to carry out that strategy? So here, mostly what I do is I check the cash position. Also, I can even do ratios to check and see, prepare a cash budget. If there's information, then I comment on it, right? That is resources to carry them out. So here is where you can even consider financing options as well, right? Then 3 is where you are considering acceptability. And acceptability, people must accept, right? So acceptability is more about what? Your stakeholders. Are your stakeholders going to what? Accept that particular strategy, right? And how will stakeholders accept? Please check the stakeholders by doing a stakeholder appraisal. What is the particular stakeholder's position? Are you getting it? What is his importance to the organization, right? Is he going to oppose the strategy or is going to support the choosing of that strategy? I get it. If you do MPV, is he giving you a positive MPV or negative MPV for you to accept or reject that offer? So when it comes to strategic choice questions, these are the areas they are going to come from, right? Methods of development, overseas expansion, generic strategies, Bowman strategy clock, then growth strategies from answer. But note, what is the answer approach? When you're answering questions from this area, what do you need? Remember, I told you that questions from strategy or questions from strategic case study take three forms. One is answer in the scenario question, right? So the answer will be in the scenario, meaning I can tell you that this company is currently what? Selling the same product in the same market based in the scenario. Then I tell you what strategies were being adopted, right? So this is the type where the question will tell you to either evaluate or analyze what somebody was already doing, right? Evaluation or analysis of what somebody was already doing and its importance. I get it. So this type of questions are answered in the scenario. The thing is already there. You just have to know what it is, right? The second type of question that is in strategic case studies, what do you think type of question? Now, with what do you think kind of questions, what happens is that the person is doing something or the person, there's some particular issue in the case, but they've not told you the strategy. So here you are going to say, okay, from my thinking or in my thinking or in my opinion, this is what I think should be done. So somebody has done something and then they'll tell you to suggest. Most of the time, ICA here will tell you to suggest or recommend, I get it, suggest or recommend appropriate strategies that the person should pursue. I get it, based on the information or particular issues that you are seeing, right? This strategy will help this guy based on this. And the last type of questions that I think all students should consider is what we call theory questions, right? So theory can be asked anyhow. These ones are also called knowledge questions. So this one can be asked from anywhere. So anything goes here. So you must also learn so that you know the theory type of question. So these are the three types of questions. Now, how do you approach strategic choice questions? There are three main approaches, right? But what I want students to go with are the first two. The first one is where you go with pros and cons, right? So if I tell you that, okay, suggest appropriate growth strategies, not so appropriate growth strategies for MNC PLC, something like this, not so. So you can use the pros and cons approach or simply advantages and disadvantages approach. So when I take what? Maybe market penetration, also market penetration. Sorry for using the short name, market penetration. So I can just decide to say that, okay, I can go with what? Market penetration. Sorry, what is happening? Okay, so I can decide to go with market penetration. Then you underline it nicely and tell us, okay, what is market penetration? This, maybe I can go with this strategy will involve MNC NOSU selling its existing, so let's say MNC sells cameras, its existing cameras in the existing market, not so. If MNC pursues this strategy or this strategy, it will have the following benefits, right? Then you list them. That is how you go about it. Based on the scenario, it should be linked to the scenario. One, are you getting it? It will develop more customer what? Loyalty. Also, 2, also, it will maybe increase the company's what market share as it is still operating in its market. And also, then you go forward and say, however, the following challenges may be encountered, right? So if you like, you can just say the following benefits, or you just say advantages, then you list. I prefer you use bullet points. Then 2, the following what challenges, or you can say what demerits, disadvantages, right? Then you talk about them. So 1, 2, maybe competition, to face competition in its existing environment. People may lose interest in its product, not so because it's not changing or not changing its efforts. It may consider withdrawing from the market and so on and so forth, right? That as the competition gets stronger, this and this will happen. This is how we do it. So you take 1, you do it this way. You take 2, you do it this way. Then you give a conclusion. Always, ICA students have that problem. They never give conclusion. Always make sure you give a conclusion that, considering the facts and circumstances above, I think it would be appropriate if the company chooses this one or choosing these ones, because you are not limited to choose just one strategy. No, you can do all of them. No strategy is mutually exclusive. You cannot say that I want to do only market development. It doesn't work like that. You can even pursue all. So it's up to you and what you say. But make sure that you are able to talk about the pros and cons. That's the first way of what? Answering the question, right? Now, approach number 2 to answering strategic choice questions, right? Approach number 2 is to use the SFA approach, right? Suitability, feasibility, acceptability. But this is common to ICA, right? They themselves are going to ask you that, how do we answer this question? They'll tell you that using the SFA model, using suitability, feasibility, acceptability, or they'll tell you that what? Analyze the strategy or evaluate the strategy in line with suitability, feasibility, and acceptability, or whether the strategy is suitable, feasible, and acceptable, right? So if that is the case, then what you are going to do is, 1, you take the strategy, tell us suitability, then you underline it nicely. Then you tell us whether it is suitable based on the information in the case and based on the strategy the company wants to do. It seems the company is in a fast-paced environment. It seems it has so much competition. It seems that this is the company's mission. And once the company wants to pursue this market development, it seems that it suits the mission that the company wants to do, because the company has so many external contacts. And it having so many external contacts, for instance, the supermarket in maybe UK, it can export some of those products to UK, and also as a way to do market development, and therefore the strategy is suitable. Then you go to feasibility, right? So feasibility, usually students do not know what to say, but you're looking at resources to carry it out. I will say cash position. Also, I will first start and go to my cash position and say, okay, since the company wants to pursue this, cash seems to have what? Increased by what? Maybe 30% during the period, from what? Maybe 200 million to maybe 260 million, something like this. So you have said that, okay, the company has what? Increased by this to this. So then you give a conclusion, you increase that this has changed this, and the company also issues shares during the year. This would further increase their feasibility capability. Apart from that, maybe there are some budget restrictions, things like capital rationing. You talk about it, that can the company go for more funds to pursue this investment? That's you, you're a finance student. You should be able to tell this. So for me, I prefer calculating ratios here and supporting it with whatever investment the company wants to pursue. Then apart from that, the last one is what? Talking about what? Acceptability. Now, when it comes to acceptability, students always have a problem. All they do is that stakeholders will accept or they will not accept based on this information. Also here, you look at some particular ratios as well, which would what? Influence the stakeholder. I can go with some simple profitability ratios to see how my shareholders will be happy with it, or whether they will accept it or not. It doesn't matter. Know what they want, right? Everybody wants some things. If this thing will end up increasing my ROCE, they may be happy. And also, they may want to what? Achieve. They may want to accept it. Then apart from that, your stakeholder analysis is very important. So pick some 2 or 3 stakeholders. Tell us, okay, these stakeholders are very important to the business as they are key players. Look at their position. Are they going to oppose, or they are going to what? Oppose or what? Support you. So look at their opposition. Are they antagonistic? Not so. Are there supporters? Are you getting it? Are they low priority? You have to look at all those things, not so. And the people who are going to worry you. So you look at all those things. You can also use the Mendeley. So all these things, when you sort of mix them together, it tells the examiner that this guy knows his way around the paper. It's just practical. See, if you learn theory and you don't know how to apply it to the case, that is when you fail case study. Now, you see all the models I'm giving you. If you know case study like this, trust me, nobody will worry himself trying to fail you, because you have sort of linked the thing to the scenario, and you linking to the scenario makes it fair and fun. Okay, there are other ways that we actually answer questions. But what I tell students is that when it comes to strategic case study, when you are answering strategic choice questions, okay, you can use the advantages or disadvantages, suitability, feasibility, acceptability. There's a third way where we can just examine the operational issues, strategic issues, and financial issues. But this one is rare. This one is a rare. It's a rare type, right? It's mostly rare. So that's why I didn't talk about it. But where they ask you to use that, you may consider financial issues like NPV, financial impact on the financial statement by calculating some ratios, impact on your cash flows, if you have access to high growth markets when you are entering a new market, financial risk, right? Financial risk, foreign currency risk, if there's additional cost to be considered, reduced production and warehousing costs. Are you getting it? If there's normal risk, financial, liquidity risk, things that will happen, you talk about all any financial, operational, are you getting it? Issues must be what? Talked about. That's also another issue, but most of the time we prefer the advantage, disadvantage, and the SFA. Now, one thing you need to understand is that every time you are doing this, you need to explain each point using specific names from the case, facts or figures from the scenario where possible. From the scenario. That is why the thing is apply. You need to be able to apply. It's the application that we need. I get it. And always give a conclusion. Remember, I told you, if you do not do it, you will lose marks. A lot of ICA questions, or when you even read the examiner's report, he says students do not conclude. Always conclude. Provide a clear answer to the question and the main reason why. Okay, always there should be a conclusion when you are answering such questions. If you're able to do this, trust me, there's no way you are going to fail, right? These are things that you must consider. So when you are answering strategic choice questions, well, these are the areas you need to consider. Now, for all that I've said, when it comes to ICA, they have areas of successful strategy development. How you generate strategies for the ICA exam. It's still the same as what I said, but they break it this way into 4 main areas. One, that your strategies may come from product market, right? Where the entity should make it clear the product, business unit, and market which it expects to operate. How it intends to manage its product and business portfolio, right? Corporate parenting, you remember I told you. So here you look at it from what? Portfolio matrices. So here you are looking at the BCG matrix, the portfolio matrices, the public sector, McKinsey GE business screen, the directional policy, Ashford portfolio display, product lifecycle matrix, and the ADL matrix I talked about for the suitability, right? We can also look at it. Then we have international strategy choices. That's you look at the EPRG framework, IR framework, international strategies, 5 C's of Globalization by Kenichi Omei, the 5 C's of Globalization, the 5 stages of globalization. Then we look at corporate parenting, also, and then the corporate strategies. Then we have competitive advantage as the next one, where you are looking at how to achieve competitive advantage, just like I told you. So you look at your direction, then you look at how to achieve competitive advantage. So here we look at strategic positioning, we look at Porter's generic strategy, strategy clock. You see, I put it in bold. That means that's the most important one, most important model at this level. Then value chain, product positioning, the viral framework, the marketing mix, hyper competition. Then we come to growth vector, where you look at what? The growth and alternative strategies, which is mostly the Ansoff's matrix that we use to do that. Remember, intensification and diversification. Then the final part ICA talks about is what? Synergy. Okay, so it is telling you that you consider product market, you consider competitive advantage, growth vector, then synergy, which is where you consider what? The external development. And also, and internal development. So whether you are going with what internal development or you are going with external development, mergers and acquisition, that is where you are what merging with other people. And remember, synergy is what 1 + 1 is equal to 5. No, so 1 + 1 is equal to 3. Synergy is when the combined efforts of what 2 or more people is greater than their individual efforts combined. Because when I consider the individual effort of 1 and 1, it should give me 2. But 2 or more people working together will bring me 3 or more. Not so. So that is where you work with other people. So if you want to generate strategies in ICA exam, you can also look at it this way. So for me, I believe in exam technique. Exam is not knowledge alone. It comes with technique. When you know the technique, trust me, there's no way. And these areas actually carry marks, because when we say strategic case study, the word strategic comes from strategies, and these are the strategies. So if you want to learn strategies, focus on these things, and that is how you can make the best out of strategic choice. However, there are functional strategies like marketing strategies, procurement, production, IT, IS, or information technology, information system strategies. There's marketing strategy, operation strategy, and also financial strategies. But all those areas, I could tell you, they are more about implementation. They are mixed up, right? They are mixed up as part of the internal environment. So I tell students that, listen, you cannot go into the exam without understanding these principles. Last night, they brought R&D strategies. And the funny thing is, a lot of people saw R&D in the question, but they never even learned about R&D from the book, which is very sad, okay? But please take a look at these things, and they are going to help you an awful lot. So in our subsequent sessions, I will take these models one after the other, and then we'll look at how to deal with